Today. I'm very excited to welcome you to this week's webinar, Three Secrets to Finding a Job Using LinkedIn. I'm also very happy to welcome our guest, Joshua Waldman, who is the author of Job Searching with Social Media for Dummies, as well as the founder of the award-winning career blog, careerenlightenment.com. Joshua has been a Brand Yourself friend since we were in a dorm room. So I'm very excited to join him today. Joshua, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
I'm going to let you take it from here. But just a reminder, if you want to follow along with the hashtag BYWebinar, if you have a question or put it in the chat, we'll be monitoring it throughout and we'll answer at the end. Joshua, take it away.
Thanks, Sabrina. Well, welcome everybody. It's an absolute pleasure to be here. Like Sabrina said, I've been a huge fan of BrandYourself.com since the very beginning. The company is mentioned in both editions of my For Dummies book, as well as my workbook, and just some fantastic tools that are available. So very honored to be here today. Before I share with you the three secrets of using LinkedIn to find work, I want to share with you my story. So imagine this, okay? It's 2009. I'm parked outside a small office building inside my beat up midnight blue Volkswagen Jetta, and I am crying my eyes out. I've been out of work for about 2 months. I've had 13 job interviews and bombed every single one of them until today. Today was the best job interview ever. I rocked it. Everything that was thrown at me, all the questions, knocked it out of the park. I was on fire. So I should be ecstatic, right? But instead, I'm completely terrified, upset, scared out of my wits, and you're probably asking yourself, why? You just had a great interview, right? Well, the reason is that I'm suffering from something called PTLD. It's post-traumatic layoff disorder, right? Which means that I'm completely convinced that no matter what job I get, I'll just get laid off from it again. It's just a matter of time. And this fear, this trauma is incredibly debilitating. And I'm also convinced that if I don't let go of this fear that I'm feeling, I'm never going to be ready to start a new job. I'm never going to find a new job. So let's rewind a little bit to how I got to this place in 2009. So starting off, I've got this well-paying sales job at Cisco, but it's not really meaningful for me, right? I feel stifled and unchallenged, and more than once I actually found myself in the boss's office apologizing for not doing things his way because, I'm kind of a boat rocker, a rule breaker, as they say in corporate lingo, right? And so, for example, during my first year at Cisco, I go ahead and start the Cisco group on LinkedIn, and this is in 2006, by the way, so LinkedIn wasn't that big yet. And, you can see the group is very successful now. In fact, they kicked me off of it and took over the group a couple years ago, but when I first started it, they were not happy that I'd gone and took the initiative and started the Cisco group. In fact, when I sent the email to all at Cisco.com inviting everybody in the 50,000 person organization to join, I got a call from HR the next day. So, I get really excited by technologies, and with a big company like that, it just wasn't a very good fit. And back then, LinkedIn was just a baby, right? There were, I don't know, maybe a couple million members. Today, there's over 330 million members of LinkedIn, right? I mean, there's even more, right? Back then, LinkedIn wasn't in 200 plus countries. Back then, there weren't 3 million companies represented on LinkedIn. LinkedIn currently has over 5,000 full-time employees working on the product, and every single day are millions and millions of searches for talent. So it wasn't the tool that it used to be. So our HR department wasn't at all happy that I'd done this, and but that's okay. So they said you have to take it down, and I said, sure, go ahead, take over ownership and take it down yourself, which they, of course, uh, took over ownership and then just kicked me out because it was so successful. So this kind of cutting edge exploration that was part of who I am just really wasn't a good fit for me. And um, plus, they demanded long hours, Silicon Valley style, and I wanted to try new things. They were conservative. I wanted to really serve my customers, and they were more interested in sales goals and hitting numbers. So rather than go on a job hunt, I did what most people unhappy with their jobs do. Absolutely nothing. Nothing at all. I just sat there and suffered for 26 months. So a word of advice when you're at a job that you don't like, um, start looking for something new. I think that would be a good idea. Don't do what I did, which was sit around and wait to get laid off because you're at the bottom of somebody's list. Anyways, a few years go by. It's 2009 and the economy tanks. Right? Everything goes completely upside down, and along with thousands of others, I'm laid off. I'm forced to face this choice that I wasn't making, right? Which is, what am I going to do with my life? And what are these assumptions that I'm making? Assumptions like my job is secure, or assumptions like my college education will just take care of everything. Assumptions like if I just did nothing and ignored my career unhappiness, everything would be okay. But like most of you, I had bills to pay, had family to take care of, and decisions to make about my career, decisions that I was delaying. So after that 14th interview, right, where I was crying in my car, I went home depressed, still felt pretty raw from the layoff a few months ago, and I didn't know what to do. But then something interesting happened. That night, I thought about the years that I lived in Nepal studying meditation with Tibetan masters. I'd spent my junior year at Brown in Nepal, in the Himalayas, living in the Tibetan community and learning about meditation. And I remember something that one of the teachers said to me. He said this. He said, if there's anything that you want or need in your life, the best way to get it is to let go of your attachment to it. Really interesting. And I thought about that teaching that night after that interview. And, it really, it changed me. So I sat down, I said, okay, I'm going to do something with this. I'm going to apply this to my life. And so in my case, I was out of work. And I wanted a job. So how would this apply? I visualized the people in Portland, Oregon, where I live, who were suffering from unemployment, and I imagined their faces as they got a phone call from a company wanting to hire him. Like that joy, when you win the lottery, I guess, where you work so hard at something, and the company that you had applied for and interviewed with says, when can you start? Like that feeling you get. That was the look that I was visualizing on people's faces. And so I expanded that out from Portland to all of Oregon. And I saw the same things, the same feeling in people's faces. And then I expanded it to all of America. Everyone in America who's suffering from unemployment or an unhappy job, what would it feel like to get a call from that dream company, right? That feeling, and I just magnified it. And then I saw the whole world getting that phone call, everybody in the world, billions of us getting that phone call. And everyone just feeling that happiness and relief when hearing the words, "We want to hire you." Now, I should add that my first time at the unemployment office, they told me not to expect any job interviews for like 3 months, right? And I challenged that assumption, used LinkedIn, and had my first interview within a week. And I want to share with you how I did that. And in fact, using these techniques is how I landed 14 job interviews. But that night, I realized that I'm just not ready for a job. I want to do something different with my life. It's time to make that decision. So why not combine the two things that I do really well, social media and job search? And that's when I launched my blog and started teaching LinkedIn and teaching these workshops and building curriculum and writing articles and writing the book and all kinds of stuff. So, this choice really felt fantastic. I was helping people. I was doing something that I was good at, that I was gifted at. I started to go to different job clubs around Portland. I showed people how to use these tools and techniques, and then seeing those same people come back a week or two later and hearing their success. Like I took what you said and I got 4 job interviews, or this is actually a true story. Jeff Smith came to one of my workshops. He made some changes, some of the changes that we're actually going to talk about today. In a week, he's been unemployed, right, for 6 months in 2009. He used these suggestions and within a week had 17 inquiries. Just an incredible success, and it felt so good to make that kind of positive impact with people. So I believe that you can get results like this too. I really do. And then in the next hour, I'm going to lay out the essential framework to get you started with it. Now, my framework is built on 6.5 years of writing LinkedIn profiles for over 300 clients, authoring the book, Job Searching with Social Media for Dummies, from my award-winning career blog, careerenlightenment.com. And this blog helps tens of thousands of readers each and every month with these questions and techniques and strategies. And also a curriculum that I developed that teaches social media job search skills to the unemployed through the employment office here in Portland Metro, where we've helped over 800 unemployed job seekers in the last year and a half master social media skills. These are the people who need it the most, and we're finally able to get this information out. So a lot of what you're going to learn today is the essentials from all of this work. So let's go ahead and get rolling, and I want to kind of check in back with you and ask you a question. So here's kind of a philosophical question, and I also want to make sure that you know where the chat is and that you know that you can always ask me questions and make comments throughout today's webinar. So here's just a first question for you. Are you going to wait to get pushed over the edge like I did, or are you going to take action today and learn something new? So if you're on board with me and you want to learn this technique, just go ahead and pop yes, I'm ready, or whatever it is that you want to into the chat box on the right side, and Sabrina will let me know when some of those answers are coming in.
Oh, people are ready. They are. We've got plenty of people that are saying that they're ready to go. They're ready to rock. We got
All right, nice.
and Erica. Yes, action today. I'm ready. Go, go, go. Thank you, Karen. Yes, we got lots of smiley faces.
Nice.
These people are ready to go.
All right, awesome. I love it. So let's just do this. I want to share with you some really, really exciting research that's come out recently. JobVite has reported that 10 million people have used LinkedIn successfully to find work. Just amazing statistics. Look at this. This study came out the year after that one that said recruiters rely, 94% of them rely on using LinkedIn. So LinkedIn really is the highest leverage tool that you have at your disposal today for your career, period. So today we're going to break things up into 3 parts. The first part, we're going to talk about elements of a great profile. We need to look good online, and if you're using BrandYourself.com, you already recognize that, and I want to go into details of what are those 3 elements of a great profile and why you should be spending most of your time there, and in fact, most people don't do that. Second, we're going to talk about what do you actually say on that profile. It's one thing to know that you have a professional headline or a summary statement, but what do you actually put in there, and what's the technique for that? We're going to actually, by the time you leave today's webinar, you're going to have a really great looking profile summary. And then we're going to talk about connection with other people, because it's not just about looking pretty online, right? It's about using these things to expand your network. So let's talk about personal branding. BrandYourself.com helps you with this, but I want to kind of reposition personal branding, or rebrand personal branding, and call it personal positioning for our purposes right now, because branding can mean many, many different things. But when we're talking about what makes you different, unique, special, the best at what you do, we're really talking about positioning yourself as being different or better than your competition. Okay, what are these elements of personal branding? Well, it's all about standing out from the crowd. Okay, so I've got a question for you, and keep in mind that recruiters are incredibly busy, right? Now, most of LinkedIn's revenue comes from products sold to recruiters. Recruiters are looking at profiles, hundreds and hundreds of profiles a day. Why would they click on yours? Why would they spend more than 6 seconds on yours? You could either look like a judge from Law and Order, like this guy, right, who really is not branded. He's not standing out to me at all. Or you could look like a client of mine, Brooke Snow, who used this picture and this profile to help her get a job at her dream marketing agency. Now you're looking at this picture and you're saying, this is not a professional picture. We will talk about that in a moment because, in fact, it is. And I want to talk about why. And the questions we need to ask ourselves that answer the question, is this the picture that I should be using or not? Conan O'Brien has a really funny LinkedIn profile. If you haven't checked it out, look at it. You will laugh. It has tidbits of information like his test score is his blood pressure, or the courses that he's taken are Build Wealth the Trump Way, or Build Wealth by Suing Donald Trump over failure to build wealth. He's published on the Chicago Times for selling his humidifier. Really, really funny, all on brand, because why? He is a comedian. He is a comedian, and that is his personal positioning. Okay? So the elements of your personal brand, I think, are divided into two spheres. Number one, who you are, because after all, you need to be congruent with your message. Congruent with your message. Okay? That sphere can be divided up into your values, your drives, your goals, your aspirations, who you admire. All of these things come into who you are. For example, if you highly valued the environment and sustainability, you might have a hard time saying yes to a job offer working on an oil drilling rig in the middle of the South Pacific, right? So even if they offered you $1 million, there are some things that you're just not willing to do. The second sphere to think about is what your audience needs. Now, it might be nice that you highly value sustainability and the environment, but if that value or that goal or who you are does not align or interest your target audience, it's irrelevant. The brand is not effective. So we really have to start thinking about ways to bring those two spheres together. Now, the way to understand your target audience is to triangulate. And what I mean by this is to start at the highest level of your industry. Everyone knows, I mean, even if you don't know exactly what company that you want to work for, you certainly know what industry you want to be in. And that's an easy question. And we can use that as a launching off point to start to discover the companies that interest us in the areas that we want to work. And then we can use tools like LinkedIn and ZoomInfo, etc., to actually find people who are working in those companies to network with. So, for example, let's start at the highest level. This is a website that you really should bookmark. It's called alltop.com. And what this is human curated news. A human being actually goes into hundreds of industries around the world, finds the top 100 blogs or news sites for that industry, finds the top 5 articles for that blog, and then summarizes the top 5 articles amongst all 100 websites. So it's a very, very effective way to get up to speed with what is going on in the industry that I'm looking at. Alltop.com. Okay, and we could also go into LinkedIn Advanced Search to do this as well. Now, on the left side of LinkedIn, you can go to Industry and add the industry that you're interested in. And when you do this, you can also sort and filter by location and size of company and whether or not they're headquartered in that location or hiring on LinkedIn and all of these things to try to narrow down what that list of top 10 companies is for you. So now we're narrowing down to people. So we've started off with industry. We got to see what companies are in that industry in those geographic areas. And now we're narrowing down even further to see who are those people of interest who are working at my target companies. And LinkedIn is a fantastic tool to do this kind of research. We can see very clearly everyone in first, second, or group member degree connections who are working in companies that I'm targeting. And these could be information interview sources. These could be hiring managers. We just want to start to get familiar with names. So we talked about who you are, understanding your values, your passions, your needs, your goals, and then we talked about what they need when we talked about triangulation, starting at the industry level, coming down to the company, and ultimately looking at people so we can understand their goals. When we bring those two things together, that is a powerful personal brand. Now, how does all of this apply to LinkedIn? That's all great. You're probably asking yourself, how do I apply this to LinkedIn? I came here for a LinkedIn webinar. Come on, show me the goods. So let's start talking about how to apply that you-them framework to your LinkedIn profile. This is very interesting. Now, what I'm going to share with you today is statistics, it's research, it's not just my opinion, okay? I really shy away from standing on a soapbox and just telling you what I think are the elements of a good LinkedIn profile without actually having something to back me up. So what you can see here from this retina tracking study is that the picture, the headline, and moving down the page, current position, and then summary tends to be where the eyeball moves on the page. Here's another one. We can see the order of the eyeball goes 1, 2, 3, down to 4, which is summary. It's down below. So picture, headline, coming down, current position, and then summary. So let's talk about headline, picture, and summary, because these are the three highest leverage parts of your profile, but unfortunately, these are the three parts of the profile that most people spend the least amount of time on. And what I'm going to challenge you to do today is to reverse that and spend most of your time thinking about your headline, your picture, and your summary, and the rest of your profile you can spend less time on if time is an issue for you. Now let's look at these two examples of what not to do. Satish is a senior software engineer. QA stands for quality assurance. Look at where he is located. San Francisco Bay. Now, just a hypothetical question for you. How many software engineers do you think live in San Francisco Bay? A lot. And so he has not accomplished personal positioning. He has not told me what makes him different from all of the other senior software engineers. So just a job title, not good enough. Let's go down to Joseph. Joseph has this to say about himself. I help companies generate revenue through product innovation and go-to-market planning. Well, if I were a recruiter and I were looking for a VP of marketing, he would not show up in a result because he has not actually put his job title. So this is great. It's very branded, but it's too much on the extreme of being soft. And I really want to have some keywords in there. So you want to be really careful with your headline, that you include your job title, but you also use that space, the 120 characters including spaces, to also talk about what makes you different, position yourself. Here's a good example. Kara is a trainer. She works for me. She actually teaches the curriculum at the employment offices here in Portland, Oregon. And I really like her headline because it has all of those elements. She's an adult educator. That is her job title. She's an adult educator. Okay? Now, what makes her different from all of the other adult educators? What problem does she solve for me? She's a success coach and a facilitator putting the community in college to maximize learner success. Well, if I were looking for an adult educator and I were working at a community college, I would love to talk to Kara because she understands the same values and goals that I have and that I'm trying to hire for. Let's talk keywords real quick. So You know when you Google something, you look for, I don't know, let's say you're looking for a recipe for oatmeal cookies. You click on the first three results, right? Um, well, the same thing happens with LinkedIn when recruiters are looking for a role to fill, right? And if your profile is on page two of those results, you're less likely to get clicked on, and essentially you're invisible, right? So just like with BrandYourself.com and the technologies and tools that they use to help you rank on page one, we can do this also by applying keywords to your LinkedIn profile, and your headline is really a very important place to put the keyword. So if you work with a professional writer, make sure that you get from them a list of the keywords that they're trying to help you rank for. Do your keyword research. Ways to do this would be to look at job postings, job opportunities from job boards within your area, and to build a word cloud like this, or to look at profiles from people who are doing it right, who are ranking for certain words. Let's talk about summaries. This is a bad summary because, number one, it's not telling me a story. There's no first-person narrative. I highly encourage you to use first-person narrative on LinkedIn. I would like to see him talk to me as a person, not just bullet point out these trainings that he's happened to have taken. Also, it's very long, and there's quite a bit of abbreviation going on, things that are maybe hard for me to relate to. Here's a better example because it's shorter, but it still could be better, right? Still, I could apply first-person narrative to this, but it's shorter, and if I'm a busy recruiter, well, then this is going to be more accessible to me. So I'm curious, and by the way, this is another study that came out about the summary. You want your summary, a lot of people skip it, and so I'm curious here if you can put this in chat. If you do not have a profile summary, just say don't have, or I don't have one, or it's empty. Just go ahead there and chat and just let me know where you stand with your summary. Now, if you do have a summary and you don't like it, go ahead and put that into chat as well and say, maybe I need to work on it, or I'm not happy with my summary, and just let me know where you stand with your summary. And I'll wait a couple seconds here for Sabrina to report back to me on what was said.
It looks like most people either don't have a summary.
Okay.
Some people say it could use some work. I got Jean here, Elizabeth, Patrick, Andre, Kent. Yeah, I would go with most people don't have it or they're just not happy with the one that they got.
All right. Well, let's work on that. I want everybody on this call to have an awesome summary by the end of the hour. So let's do this. Now, when I write summaries professionally for clients, I've got over 12 different frameworks that I use, and some of them are fairly complicated, and so we're not going to have time to go through them. But I do want to introduce you to a powerful, short yet powerful, effective strategy for writing your summary that you can learn in probably the next 10 minutes or so, just by answering these 4 questions. So if you guys are game, what I'd like to ask you to do is take out a piece of paper or open up a text editor and answer these questions as we go through them. Because at the end of my explanation of the 4 questions, I'd like to ask you to share with us, and maybe 1 or 2 of you on the call can get some live coaching from me. So I'm going to go through these 4 questions and try to follow along, try to answer them for yourself. The first question is, who are you? Now, this is not a philosophical Zen koan. I asked this question once at a presentation in California a couple of years ago, and somebody in the back of the room raised their hand. Someone gave them the microphone, and he stood up, and he said, Joshua, that has been a question on my mind for the last 45 years of my life. I'm not asking it like that. Just keep it simple. For me, I might answer this question like, I am a social media strategist specializing in helping people find work. That's simple, right? I am an accountant specializing in helping corporate firms get paid faster. I am an engineer specializing in helping medical healthcare take products to market faster, whatever it is. But answer the question, who are you? Okay. Moving on to the second question. This one is really about the problem you solve. What do you do for me? What do you do for your audience? Now, the way I might answer that is to say, well, I'm thinking out loud here. The people who I like to help are job seekers, and they're frustrated. They're frustrated. Why? Because their resume is not working the way they expected it to. So, my answer to this question might be, when your resume isn't getting you the call back, I can help you leverage LinkedIn to make sure you cut your job search time in half, right? This is directly answering the frustration of my target audience. And it's really, really important, right? There's a few assumptions here. One is that you know who your target audience is. And number two, you know what their problems are. Number three, that you are uniquely qualified to solve those problems. Now, we talked about this, and this is why personal branding work is so important to do, and that's why we talked about personal branding at the very beginning of today's presentation, because if you did that work, this question would be easy for you to solve. Now, take a best guess here. What is it that you do for me as your audience? What problem do you solve? Okay, and go ahead and write down your answer to this. And for now, it can just be a sentence. Now, these questions are going to get harder. The third question is why you are the best. Why are you the best? Okay, this is a really, really hard question for a lot of people because we're trained from a very early age not to brag. We know that bragging is going to get us into trouble. We'll alienate ourselves from our peer groups. We're going to feel bad after we do that. But look, there's a very fine line, and there's a balance that you can start to explore between the difference between bragging and simply stating your accomplishments. What I'm asking you to do is to state your accomplishment. And a way around this is to think about one very specific success that you've had. Just one time. Just go ahead and visualize that in your mind's eye. And think about that success. And I want you to think about the role that you played in that success. What role did you play in that success? And that's the story you're going to tell in your answer to number 3, why are you the best? I'll give you a couple seconds for this one. Fourth and last question is, what do you want? What kind of job are you looking for, right? So I'm reading your profile. I read what you do, who you are. I read how you can help me. I read how you're uniquely qualified to do that. And I'm not sure what you want. Are you looking for a job or are you not? Are you just looking to network? Are you currently very happy with your job, but you love talking about this topic? Whatever it is that you are looking for, you need to just say it and be very clear and simple. So, for example, someone looking for a sales job might say, if you're looking for a quota retiring salesperson, I'd love to chat with you about how I might fit into your organization. Please email me at. Okay, these are the 4 questions for you in review. Who are you? What do you do for me? Why you are the best? And what do you want? Right? What do you want? In other words, what's the call to action? And so I'm going to take a break here, come up for air, and turn it back over to you guys. If you've done this and followed along with me, I want to get to know who you are. So go ahead and copy and paste your answers. I just need your answers to all 4 of these questions into the chat, and let's talk about it.
Okay, while we're waiting for some answers to come into the chat, we do have a couple questions that are related to this, Josh.
Sure.
So Elizabeth, it seems like she has a bit of a complex background. She's worked in a number of places, a number of different types of jobs. She really doesn't have a clear focus. And she kind of wants to know, how does she position herself for the next role, even if she doesn't know what the next role is going to be?
So it's very hard. It's very hard when you don't have focus to use tools like LinkedIn because LinkedIn can help put you in front of the right people very effectively, but without focus, it can tend to make you look like you're not focused. And that can also be an issue. And so, what I would challenge you to do is to find that focus and to make that decision that you're putting off. Now, I was talking with a college student a couple years ago, and she really wanted to get into two different fields. She was not clear what she wanted. She wanted to get into finance, and she also wanted to be a teacher. And she really didn't have any kind of heuristic rules to help her make that decision. So we talked about it from a purely economic point of view. I said, okay, so which industry is growing or shrinking? Teaching or finance? And she looked at me and she said, well, finance is growing. I said, well, why don't you start there? Why don't you spend the next 3 to 4 months really just focusing your online profiles into the realm of finance? And that was a huge relief for her to make that decision and then not worry about it after that. Now, if things didn't work out in finance, she could always switch back. And the cool thing is with these tools is that you can try something out for a little bit, for a while, and if it didn't work out, try another one. But you've got to focus, and I really want to encourage you to do that, because if you don't, you're going to look like you're out of focus, like you don't know what you want. And it'll be hard for me as the reader of your profile to know exactly how to help you or how you can help me.
Great. So it looks like we've got a couple coming in if we want to go over the
Sure,
questions. So
let's do it.
from Andrea, and it looks for number one, she's a scientific professional specializing in project management and program development in the developing pharmaceutical industry.
Mm,
So what she does, she advances programs and projects to an organized, well-functioning state and she developed an aut, excuse me if I botch this, auto-radiography program at MPI Research, increasing departmental revenue by 25% and created an add-on feature to corresponding programs.
wow.
Oh, I think that's what she did the best. And then in terms of what she wants to do, is she wants
Yeah.
to be in a position that utilizes her skills as a project manager.
All right. So I think that's an amazing. You did one, two, and three amazing. Wow, I'm floored. I definitely want to talk to you. So I would challenge you. Here's how I would coach you. I would want you to be more specific with your call to action. So I want you to be specific about exactly what kinds of companies you want to do project management for, in what industry, in what location. Um, just putting a couple of qualifying words into that last sentence can really, I think that's an amazing sounding LinkedIn profile summary. So thank you so much for sharing that. Wow.
And I now have another question from Jennifer, who seems to want to fill out the questions, but's having some trouble with the fourth one. What do you want to do?
Oh
Um,
yeah.
so Jennifer is actively employed and wants to make the move, but how do you tackle the question, what do you want? Do you think that this is
Yeah.
more of an internal debate in terms of what she wants next steps, or should she be looking to her past to figure out her future?
The question I think she's asking is how aggressive should I be with asking for what I want next when I currently have a job and I don't want to risk it. So if that's kind of the premise of the question there, then what I would say is that that last sentence, the call to action can be very soft, where you might not want to turn up the radar for your boss, and saying things like, I really wish I were doing this other thing, on your profile, but you might say, I love talking about this topic, and if you have any challenges in this area, please connect with me. Or something even just as simple as, I'd love to connect with anyone else who's doing X, Y, and Z. And that can be all you need to do for that fourth question. When you're already at a job, you do want to be careful about how you're positioning yourself. You don't want to jeopardize your current position.
Great. It also looks like we're getting some questions from some students or
Mm-hmm.
recent graduates. And I'm going to use Beatrice as an example. She submitted her summary. So she says,
Mm-hmm.
I'm a recent graduate in communications management and very passionate about television and media.
Uh-huh.
For number two, she developed and produced digital projects and social media initiatives to build on fans' engagement to TV series. What she does best, for years she's been a fan looking for engagement. She knows what they're looking for, and for 8 years she's curated a very successful fan site. And in terms of what job she's looking for, she wants to bring the opportunity of her she's looking for the opportunity to bring her experience to a professional environment. So
Yep.
I think that's loaded. One, how do you think she did? And two,
Yep.
how as a student do you or a recent graduate do you really position your LinkedIn for the job that you want?
Yeah. So there's a few things that employers. I'll answer your second question first. As a graduate or a recent graduate, a lot of times you're not going to have the breadth and depth of professional experience to draw upon. And so answering the question number three, why you're the best, can be hard. Now, what I would challenge you to do is to focus on the certain core skills that employers look for, like can you learn fast? Do you work well with others? Do you have the interpersonal skills? Do you have leadership? These are things that are more important than the skill itself, or oftentimes in the task itself that you're getting hired to do. So illustrating any way that you're a fast learner or you're a leader or you've dealt with conflict in a really proactive and effective way may be the way that you're the best, okay? And so that's a great way to reduce that sense of risk about bringing you on as a recent graduate. Now, coming back to this particular example, I think those are all great answers. I would think that with question number three for her, she might have an actual link to that fan site and talk about some of the more details of those statistics and what she actually did to make that fan site so popular. I know she curated the content, but based on what and how frequently, and was it ever monetized? Did it help anybody? So we want to see some impact there. And then for the fourth question, it's a little bit too vague, right? So we want to know exactly what industry she wants to work at, what geographic location is most interesting for her, what's the name of the role, and then you can even sweeten it up a little bit, even more, and say, give me a call, or here's my email address, open to internships, or if that's true, you can say that, and so you can really make that fun and proactive for the reader. I think we have time for one more quick one.
Okay, great. This is more of a question as well. And this
Hmm.
is from Mark, and he wants to know how do you position it if you're completely looking to change career paths?
Yeah, career change is fun, and a lot of people are going through career change, and that's totally normal. You're going to want to look for transferable skills. Of course, you've probably heard that before, that term, transferable skills. And the challenge is, how do you talk about what you want to do next when LinkedIn keeps asking you, what do you do now or what did you used to do? And the thing is that you are who you say you are. So even though it might not feel totally congruent, let's say you were a psychologist and you want to be a chef. I don't know, I'm just picking two totally random things. You might talk about how uh, being a chef allows you to serve people, to bring a smile to people's faces, just like when you used to be a psychologist. So if that's the thing that drives you and that's a skill you have, then that can be talked about in the present tense. Even though maybe I might not have ever cooked a professional meal before, I can still call myself a chef. Of course, there's limitations to what you can't, of course, call yourself a doctor if you're not, and so forth. Um, but if you call yourself what it is that you aspire to be, you're more likely to find yourself in conversations and exposed to opportunities that take you in that direction. So get used to calling yourself that new thing, that new change. Talk about in these four questions those transferable skills, things that make you good at that new direction based on what you used to do. And see what happens. Now we'll talk about connection and networking in just a moment here. Um, so start there, make your profile look like it's the new direction, and then start to network with people in that new direction and see if you can start to instigate those kinds of conversations. Hopefully I answered that question. Let's talk about pictures. We saw from our research that pictures matter a lot. In fact, some studies, I think it's the next slide here. Yep. This study came out last year from Link Humans. Adding a profile picture could result in 14 times. That's crazy. 14 times. There's a lot of people who don't have profile pictures, and I don't want to pick on you if that's you. But I want you to know that if you don't have a picture, you're not playing the game. Okay? And here's why. The reason is that if you were to, let's say, imagine you go to a dating site and you're looking for tall, dark, and handsome, and tall, dark, and handsome doesn't have a profile picture, what happens to your level of trust? Well, it goes from kind of maybe 0 to a negative number at that point. LinkedIn is a visual network, and most people have profile pictures. Now, when you don't have a profile picture, the recruiter or the hiring manager or your information interview source thinks to themselves, what are you hiding? Play the game and have your picture up there. Now, what are the elements of a good picture? I want to go through them one by one. This was a really fantastic study that came out from PhotoFeeler last year, which had some very surprising results for me. Now, we're looking at three qualities here, perceived, and everything is perceived. So we're looking at competence, likability, and influence. This is crazy. Squinting in your picture actually increases all three of those variables. Right? Competence, likability, and influence. Squint in your picture. So go ahead, look at your LinkedIn profile picture, and are you squinting? Smiling with teeth visible. Are you smiling with your teeth visible in your LinkedIn profile picture? Doing so will increase perceived competence, influence, and likability. Here's another one. Crop your bust or your torso, right? So in other words, your shoulder up. We want to see with LinkedIn profile pictures, we don't have a lot of space. So full body is out. I'm going to say that again. Make sure you don't have a full body picture. Okay. You can zoom in on the face. You can zoom in with crop, just what they're calling a bust, which is your shoulders up. So the top of the picture would be your head. The bottom of the picture would be where your shoulders are. That's kind of where you want to frame that picture. And good editing matters. Okay, so if your photo is too dark, or if it's black and white, or if it's highly saturated, in other words, if it's washed out, and it's just not good post-production, good editing. Now, most people don't have their profile pictures post-produced, and this is a huge mistake. So whether or not you can afford a professional photographer, and I'd be surprised if you can't, I mean, you can go down to, I don't know, Macy's and get a professional picture for less than $100. And also get it post-produced. But you can work with. In fact, if you sign up for my newsletter, I offer $7 post-production on LinkedIn profile pictures, just as a perk for as a thank you for people who sign up for my newsletter. So just that little bit of editing. Look at this change. If your photo is too dark, don't just crop a photo out. Right? That's a huge mistake. This is just a page that talks about that thank you service that I offer to subscribers to my blog. I want to talk about some examples of good photography. I showed you Brooke Snow earlier today, and I said she used a photo that really helped her get hired. And you're probably looking at her playing rock star guitar and scratching your head, saying, that's not a professional photo. How is that inappropriate photo gotten her a job? Well, here's why. Think back to the two spheres of personal branding. Who are you and who are they? Okay, you and them. She had a very specific company that she was interested in. The company was called Waldman and Kennedy. You may have heard of them. And she knew a few things about their culture. Their culture is very innovative and playful and creative. Now, Brooke as a person is also very playful and creative. And so she felt like there was a great match there. She knew that in the break room at Waldman and Kennedy, they actually had PlayStations. And so, and they also had Rockstar. That inspired her, and she liked to play the game too. That inspired her to take a picture of her rocking out. And they saw that and loved the picture and actually ended up hiring her. So from all vantage points, from her alignment with this picture and the relationship between the value of this picture and the company she was targeting, it was spot on. Okay, spot on for her. Pam Slim is a coach, and this is a posture of listening and attentiveness. Abhijit, he's a consultant, and so his picture is a little bit more buttoned up. But look, they all are smiling. He's showing teeth. They're all squinting a little bit. Look at Abhijit, he's tilting his head. Okay, so these are all elements of professional photography: good cropping, good post-production. These things really need to be taken very, very seriously because they increase the likelihood of someone clicking on your profile hugely. So go back and look at your picture. Is it appropriate? You really need to pay attention to this and spend more time than the average person. Let's do a quick recap of this second section, your profile. We talked about the three main elements: your profile photo, your headline, and your summary. Spend most of your time here. Spend most of your time here. Real quick, I want to talk about networking. This isn't just about looking pretty online. This screenshot was taken from my network when probably 4 years ago, when we could actually see our third-degree connections. But I want to show this to you to illustrate how powerful it is. 880 connections, first degree, gives me access, even 4 years ago, 11 million third-degree connections, right? 11 million third-degree connections. Today, because of the size and growth of LinkedIn, this number is going to be much, much higher. This study came out from Lou Adler, and he said that applicants who are referred into positions from trusted people, okay, referrals, increase your likelihood of getting hired by 50 to 100 times. That's amazing. So you want to understand how to get hired into a company. It's not going to be through job boards. It's going to be through referrals. How do you get those referrals? Well, it's not from sitting around behind your computer. It's good that you have a LinkedIn profile that looks good, but that's only a starting off point. I want to challenge you to use the alumni tool. You can see the link here at the bottom of this page, linkedin.com/alumni, where you can look at people who have graduated from your university, filter and sort based on where they live, what they do for a living, what skills they have, what they graduated in, what their degree was, and reach out to them. And you're going to use language like this. Now, on my blog, you can go to careerenlightenment.com, free stuff, and I have templates that are available for you to use. But you really want to take these conversations offline. Don't make the mistake that most people do, which is to keep the conversation on LinkedIn going back and forth and back and forth and back and forth on LinkedIn. No, you want to get to a phone call now. You want to get to a phone call now. Quick review, we talked about personal branding, personal positioning. Knowing those things up front can help you make decisions later. As we saw when we talked about polishing, those personal branding decisions that you had made really helped you create a very powerful LinkedIn profile. And then we talked about how to take those conversations offline. So the question is this: to help you figure out where your LinkedIn profile stands, I put together this app, and it basically used all of my years of experience, hired a developer to connect with LinkedIn's API so that you can, with one click, actually see if you have a good profile or not, as much as I can tell from the API. So if you want, you can open up another tab in your browser, go to profilegrade.com, and literally it'll take you 2 seconds to do this. Connect your LinkedIn profile, give me permission to look at it, and I want you to go ahead and tell me what your grade is. I'm curious to see what you guys are getting for your grade. Go ahead and pop that into their chat here after you do this. I'll give you like 5 seconds, 10 seconds. So go ahead.
We've got
Visit
Brian Artie's got 90%. Andrea's
90,
got 90%. Brandon's
cool.
got 90%.
Wow.
We got an 80, an 87,
Okay.
an 84, another 80.
Yep.
They must have all updated their profiles while they were on the webinar. 77. Okay, we got some percentages that could use some help.
Okay. Good. Anything. What I'm going to say is anything less than 100%. It does need a little help. And what you should find on the app is some suggestions for improvement that hopefully you can use right away. Now, if you want to have an A profile and you want to spend some time working on it, I would suggest that you do that and just schedule some time later this week to work on those issues. Now, I want to kind of present to you some ways that you can also expedite this process. So you could work on it yourself, right? Or you could fast track and take the next step and work with a professional. And I just want to talk about this real quick. I do offer LinkedIn profile writing services, and I work with 10 writers who are on my team who I've handpicked and trained to deliver amazing services to help you expedite this process. Now, the way it works when you work with any writer, and me in particular, is that you'll fill out an intake form. We ask you questions about your personal brand. You have a call with that writer, 10 minutes, 30 minutes, whatever it takes for them to be really, really clear about your voice. 3 days later, you actually have a draft of your profile. And it's just really fun to see what someone else can say in your voice about who you are and what you're doing. It can be such a relief to not have to do that yourself. You work with that writer, you provide feedback, they do some revisions until you're really happy with the way that product looks, and then you go ahead and upload that into LinkedIn. And this really, really works. Roxanne Leo, she was a client of ours who literally within a week of uploading her new profile has gotten hired and is really happy with that job. So it works. It works all the time. We've helped do this for over 300 professionals over the last couple of years. So if you guys are interested in working with a professional, if you want to do it yourself, I hope that I provided enough information in the last hour for you to do that. If you want to do the fast track, kick it up a notch, work with professionals who do this every day, I can also offer that to you as an option. So you can go to careerenlightenment.com/live, where I have an offer for you that will be there for a week. Okay, so it's no hard sell here. If you guys are interested, you got a week to think about it. This is an investment in your career. And so take some time, learn more about who I am if you want to, watch some videos, read some articles, and when you feel comfortable in a week, you can work with me. And the thing is, if you don't like what we provide for you, there's a money-back guarantee. No questions asked. So if you don't like the profile, just let me know. I'll give you your money back because I'm really all about making that impact on your career. And what this means for you is a new headline, a summary, the right keywords, a story told in the first person, your story told powerfully in the first person, and some tips to help you with your networking. And also, as a thank you, I'm going to send you the latest edition of my workbook. And this is going to have a ton of personal branding exercises. It's going to have networking strategies and techniques that we didn't have time to go through today, as well as a lot of other things about online reputation management and things you can do with BrandYourself.com and etc. So based on that, Sabrina, we do have a few minutes. I thought we might take some questions.
Definitely. Let me file through them right now. We have about a few minutes. Okay.
Yeah.
So Jen wants to know, how do you address the headline if the company is not as well known? If you wear multiple hats, should you put multiple titles? What level is leader? Is executive better than putting managing partner? So it's a little bit of a loaded question, but I think what she's getting at is, how do you deal with if you're wearing so many hats that it's kind of hard to boil down your title? And also, what do you do if you're working for a company that might not necessarily be as well known?
So if you're working for a company, well, on one level, it doesn't matter. If you're currently working with a company, you're more desirable than if you're not. So just put in your job title as it is on your business card. So accountant at XYZ company. That's good for if you currently have a job. If the title is convoluted and you do many different things, you might pick just one, and then explain more about it in your profile summary, because there's just not a lot of space up there at the top. What you're looking for in the headline is to show that you're currently employed and that you're doing something using keywords that make you searchable. That's the trick here. We're not looking necessarily for accuracy, although you want to be truthful. We are looking for searchability and SEO, so to help you rank on those search results within your headline.
And now Erin wants to know, do you recommend accepting LinkedIn connection requests from people that you don't know? And how important is the number of connections that you have when it comes to how you appear to people looking you up?
It's very important. Someone using LinkedIn for many years is going to see that you have 500 plus. It's going to give you some credibility. You do absolutely, yes, please accept connection requests from people, because the larger your network, the bigger the chances are that you're going to show up in search results. That's how search results show up for employers. People searching for talent is based on degree of connection. And if you don't have a very big network, then the chances of you showing up as a first or second degree for a random person goes down exponentially. So you definitely want to have a larger LinkedIn network. The larger the better. And I'm not saying just go out and ask everybody to connect with you. But if someone wants to connect with you and took the time to send you an invitation, I would connect with that person.
And I think we have time for one more question. Brian wants to know, are there any keywords to avoid? There seem to be an overuse of several of them. So off the top of your head, any of those keywords that you should steer clear from?
Every year, LinkedIn publishes their top 10 buzzwords, and you should absolutely stay clear of those. So just go to the blog.linkedin.com and look for the buzzwords and see the ones that are there. Those are the ones you definitely should not use. As far as the keywords you should use, unfortunately, we just don't have time in an hour to go through keyword research strategy. But if you want to give it a try, you could look at people's profiles who do it well and just look for and pay attention to words that pop out to you that seem to be keywords. You could also look at job postings from job boards and see how companies are describing the roles that you're targeting.
Excellent. And let's take one more.
All right.
Okay. What factors into endorsements, and should there be a balancing act between the skills that are being endorsed?
I think you do need to be strategic about the skills that you pick. I just published an article about this. I think it was on Mashable over the weekend, where there's a technique that I use. This is really ninja stuff, where you actually want to go into, there's a university finder tool, and you can find where, you find the company where you're interested in, and you look at what universities tend to graduate people into those companies. Then you go into the alumni tool for those universities, and you look at what skills are listed for people who work at that company. It's a very sophisticated way to uncover the skills that you definitely want to have on your profile. So Sabrina, maybe what I could do is send you that link to that Mashable article with that technique for everybody who's on the call today, and you can just follow that, and that's just a really solid way to make sure you've got those skills.
That is very ninja style.
Yeah.
Okay, so I think we're just about out of time. But Joshua, I wanted to thank you for joining us today. If we weren't able to get to your question, you guys have been so great in the chat, posting questions and following along with us. If you have any other questions, feel free to reach out to us. We'll be sending out a recording with all of our information. So if you do have any questions, keep an eye out for that email with the recording. And then if you would like to join us next week on our webinar, we're going to be tackling how to remove negative search results. So this is definitely important if you're looking for a new job and maybe your search results aren't reflecting as well as you are doing offline. So if you're dealing with something negative out there about you on the web and you want to clean it up for that job search or the next, employer that might be looking at you, then don't forget to join us next week. Same time, same place, and you can sign up using that bit.ly link right there. But Joshua, thank you so much again for joining us. This has been phenomenal. We've learned a ton about LinkedIn, and it's just been really great for everyone.
It's been a pleasure. Thanks for the opportunity.
Awesome. You have a good one, and everyone, we'll see you next week.